PFT OT Monday edition. The things that we either didn't get to during PFT Live or things we would like to elaborate upon. And one thing we didn't get to, an update on the Jets search, Chris, for a new general manager. They have interviewed 3 candidates. They will be interviewing one more today. We know who the 4 are. It looks like Joe Douglas, the Eagles vice president of player personnel, is the favorite at this point to get the job. A decision could come quickly. I can't help but think that this was all just kind of check the box, and give it to Joe Douglas.
Well, this was the guy that I believe you and I heard from the get-go. Even before the rumors were out that weekend of the draft weekend that McCagnon might be fired. I mean, I was already hearing rumors that Joe Douglas could be the guy there. So you're right. It's no surprise, and he's certainly worthy. I mean, we know he has some history with Adam Gase. That's good. But forget all that. The resume is legit. I mean, when you work on that Baltimore Ravens organization under Ozzie Newsome and DaCosta and some of the other smart people they've had there over the last few years, you go to the Chicago Bears, and even though it was a short time there was some impressive things done. And then really the building of this Philadelphia Eagles team, I know he played a big part in that as well. This will be a good signing for the New York Jets, and I think it's more than just about the relationship with Adam Gase. Yes, it works, but I think this guy has earned the right to be this guy and would be towards the top of just about everybody's list next year in the GM search if it were to be.
Douglas interviewed on Sunday. Scott Fitterer, the Seahawks co-director of player personnel, interviewed last week, as did Saints director of pro scouting Terry Fontenot, and Champ Kelly, the Bears director of player personnel, will be interviewing today. 4 candidates, not the kind of sweeping interview process we had expected, but this tells me that they're doing what I think they should do. Don't go out and find the best person for the job with no prior attachment to or knowledge of Adam Gase, because that person may come in wanting to hire his own coach sooner rather than later. Get somebody that Gase has worked with, that Gase can work with, and tell both of those guys, Chris, this is it.
Yeah.
You're accountable. Right. If it doesn't work, you're both gone, and we're going to start over again.
Yeah, no, exactly right. You're right. And you got to have that kind of, I think, threat there to make it work regardless. You're right, so that the GM does not work, to his own agenda. Oh, well, I don't care what Adam Gase does. I'm going to get my own guy in here a year from now, 2 years from now. You kind of put that threat on both of them. They're going to find a way to work, cohesively to make it all work. So, again, I think it's a great move by the Jets. I think all 4 of these guys would be in the cream of the crop of the conversation for GM search next year. And it's good that, at least guys like Champ Kelly and Joe Douglas, we know have a relationship with Adam Gase, that there's some comfortableness with that relationship and the conversation about football.
And, the bottom line is this: Woody Johnson, the owner of the team, could be back within the next couple of years. And there's a nagging sense that when he comes back, unless the Jets are true playoff contenders, everybody's going to be gone then, and he's going to start over with whoever he thinks can best take the team forward. Presumably, if we ever get to a point where Tom Brady retires and there's an opportunity to take over the AFC East. Speaking of the Patriots, the team that has ruled the AFC East for most of the last 20 years, we talked during the show about Rob Gronkowski's comments from over the weekend suggesting that he won't be coming back this year. We agreed, Chris, that Gronk doesn't know how he's going to feel when we get into September and October. He hasn't even had that hit his radar screen yet, that there's a chance I may miss this. There's a chance I may want to come back. There's a chance that the team may need me. But I keep coming back to this. Would Bill Belichick do something that is very opposed to his traditional way of thinking about team? I mean, if you're part of a team, you're part of a team, you're all in. You don't just show up in October, November and say, hey, sign me up for the rest of the season. That would seem to be contrary to Belichick's approach. And even if it would help the Patriots win a Super Bowl, I have that lingering image of Malcolm Butler standing on the sideline for all of Super Bowl 52 except for one special team snap. Bill Belichick is willing to risk short-term success in order to hammer home long-term messages. And I feel like his long-term message would be, you just don't pick and choose whether you're in or not. If you're not in, the guys who are here are the guys that we're going to go forward with, and you're not going to get on this train once it's already moving.
Typically, I would say you're correct. I think that's the case for like 99% of all players that have ever played for Bill Belichick. This is not getting in trouble like Malcolm Butler did, so it's a little different there. But
we still don't know what he did 18 months later.
No, we don't. I got some ideas, and I've heard a few things, certainly, and I know he broke some team rules. I could tell you that at the very least, and I know in the past I've kind of ventured onto the things I've heard through the grapevine about what he did. But, I'll say this. I think, first of all, Gronkowski is his DNA is part of this New England culture right now, to where I think he can be accepted in a hurry if need be. The other thing I'll just say, I think Gronkowski's officially crossed that line of demarcation into Belichick legends. I think Belichick, with whether it was Lawrence Taylor or if it was a Tom Brady or, some of the old great players of all time, I think he would give some of them Ty Law if he was still in shape. If you're able to still be in shape and prove that you can still play, I think these are the type of guys he's be willing to kind of break the normal rules for, to go, okay, well, Gronk, you've proved to me enough that you know what you're doing. You're a professional. And yeah, I don't love this, but you're so damn good and a legend and everything we've done here in New England that you're such a big part of it. I think he would allow it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens if it comes to that. And I feel like no matter what Gronkowski says now, I think he likes to foster that mystery and that uncertainty. And it's just good. We're talking about Rob Gronkowski when otherwise we wouldn't be. And I think at some visceral level, he knows there's value in that. All right, we're still talking about Gerald McCoy because he's due to make a decision this week on his next team. But Bruce Arians was on ESPN on Friday, and the Buccaneers coach was asked to explain why they ultimately did this swap from Gerald McCoy, the third overall pick in the 2010 draft, and his $13 million salary, to Ndamukong Suh, the second overall pick in 2010, who will make $9.25 million in base pay. And Arians said that McCoy just didn't fit, and it was more along the lines of the defense that they're planning to run. And I get that. If the guy doesn't fit in the defense, then you don't keep him. But I always thought that the best coaches took whatever system they wanted to run and adjusted it to the talent they have. I mean, they just must not see an upside in Gerald McCoy that would be worthy of adjusting the defense to make it fit him.
Well, I mean, he fits in any defense, Mike. This is a guy that's like borderline Hall of Famer type. I mean, he's certainly an NFL legend. I mean, he's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, but he's going to be an NFL legend forever. He's going to go down as one of the better Buccaneers in the history of their organization. He fits. To me, it's more than that. There's something more to this. What? Like, what can he do that Ndamukong Suh can really do that would fit? What's the difference of the player there? So that to me is coach talk. There has to be something there more with maybe the attitude of the player or maybe the changing the culture of their defense in general, and they just want new blood and a new look there. To me, the scheme fit thing is not going to sell with me. I mean, they play the same position, basically. Gerald McCoy, I would tell you, is maybe a little bit better with shooting a gap and being quicker. Suh's probably a little bit better at handling double teams and the power aspect, but neither one is that much better at one area that I go, oh, this guy's, so much better at this than that guy that you got to change him over for this scheme or whatever. No, to me, there has to be more than just the scheme fit. It's not that. It has to be something about the player, the culture, something, at least in my eyes.
One thing Arians pointed to is that Suh misses less time than McCoy. Now, Suh has only missed 2 games in his entire career, and they were due to suspension, not injury. McCoy's missed 8 games due to injury in 7 seasons, which I don't think is all that excessive. But I agree with you. I think there's something more here, and I think it was a delicate PR situation for the Buccaneers because McCoy is a popular player.
Right.
He's been there for 9 years, and you better have a damn good reason for getting rid of him and bringing in this guy that's kind of got that attitude, that edge, that guy who may take plays off, may take games off. And you never know when he's going to stomp on someone's arm, although he's past those days of his career. You've got Arians saying he wants to still see that look in his eye. This has the potential, and this kind of characterizes the entire Buccaneers season this year. It's either going to be great or it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, it seems that way. You're right. I mean, there's a lot of personalities: Jameis Winston, Bruce Arians, and Ndamukong Suh. Just those three names alone, and coaching changes, unproven commodities on the defensive side of the ball. But there is some talent on this team, and I would not be shocked if they surprise some people. They got an offensive explosiveness, in their defense. With Sue and Vita Vea and, now Devin White at linebacker. And I think there are some young corners on this team that got some potential that, they could be a team to watch out for, certainly.
Pittsburgh Steelers working hard to replace Antonio Brown at the receiver position. And the receivers who are there have been talking about the efforts that they are undertaking to push each other to replace that production from Antonio Brown. And one of the things they're doing, Donte Moncrief told Jeremy Fowler of ESPN.com that if you drop a pass, you've got to do 10 push-ups. We hear about that from time to time. If there's a penalty, you got to do push-ups. Does that work? It seems kind of hokey to me.
No, it does work. It does, yes. I mean, it's just another way to refocus.
Is it the embarrassment of having to do the push-ups? Because anybody can do 10 push-ups. Hell, I can do 10 push-ups.
Yes, but you don't always want to do 10 push-ups if you've just run like 4 post routes in a row, and then on that fourth one, the quarterback...
You're not running them on your hands.
Well, then the quarterback finally threw you one, and you dropped it. And yes, it's just like a little bit like pay your penance for dropping the ball, focus yourself. Yes, and we're all going to sit here and watch you for a second and probably yell some colorful insults at you while you do your push-ups and make fun of the fact that you dropped the ball. So, yeah, it's just a little way to kind of build on it, make it a point of emphasis. And, ultimately, is it a big difference? No, it's not going to make any difference. Ultimately, what they got to do is catch more footballs, have Jameis Winston throwing the ball, not Jameis Winston, Ben Roethlisberger. Or have the jugs machine shoot balls at them at their practice. That's usually what wide receivers do more than anything to work on their hands.
There will be a certain liberation, though, when it comes to Ben Roethlisberger's ability to just throw to the open man, because if Antonio Brown's double-teamed, triple-teamed, he's still open, you're still going to throw him a certain number of passes. Now, Roethlisberger can just throw it to the open guy. Brown missed a couple of games in 2017, and the item that we have posted at PFT points out that during Brown's absence, Roethlisberger completed passes to 9 different players. 4 guys had at least 4 catches each. So just find the open man.
Yeah.
Get open, and Roethlisberger's going to find you, and he's going to get it to you. And there won't be that. It's almost like it's not to the same extent by any means, but after Calvin Johnson retired, I felt like Matthew Stafford became a better quarterback because he was unburdened by that necessity to feed the ball to Calvin Johnson, even if he's doubled.
Right.
There's no need to feed it to Antonio Brown now. You can just focus on the guy who's open. And when you have 4 or 5 guys running out into the pattern, somebody's going to be open eventually. And if you've been playing for 15 years now at quarterback, you should be able to figure out within 2 or 3 seconds who that guy is.
Mike, that's a great comparison with the Calvin Johnson thing. And there's truth to that. You're right. I mean, when you have that star receiver, it's always one in the back of your mind as a quarterback. Oh, let me give him the ball. Let me give him the ball. And then he's so good, you throw him the ball sometimes when you shouldn't, and you shouldn't, but you go, damn, he's good. He's triple covered. I'm going to throw it to him anyways. And yeah, that can get you into some bad habits. It gets the offensive coordinator into bad habits, Mike, because he starts to go, oh gosh, I got this Antonio Brown. He's so good. Let me put more plays in for Antonio. More. Let me call another play for Antonio. And then yes, everybody loses their rhythm or place within the offense. And sometimes it makes you more predictable as an offense when you're featuring one guy so heavily like that. Like look at New England. They've found ways to spread the wealth around. I certainly wanted to get a Gronk and Edelman, but there's always been other guys part of the fold, whether that's Amendola, Hogan, Dorsett, whatever. And that keeps you on edge because now you're worried about a system and not just one player. And that's what can happen here. And I think that's what we're talking about.
When we talk about the AFC North, it's been Browns, Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, Ravens, and the Bengals are probably saying, hey, what about us? Or maybe they're happy to not be paid much attention because they can go about their business undeterred or undisturbed or uninterrupted or unsomething. I don't know.
Yeah.
Unprofessional would be that last 5 seconds for me. Anyway, isn't this great? This is all live to tape, so if I screw up, we can't fix it. I used to do these, Chris, by the way. I used to do these VOD segments like one after another, and so if you misspeak, you just start the whole thing over because it's only 2 minutes long. So this is great. I mean, we can't. There's no second take. Off we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Bengals are installing their offense in a different kind of a way. Instead of installing it by position group specifically, Albert Breer of SI.com points out, they're installing the offense completely, all together, all players understanding the whole offense instead of narrowing the plays down to how it affects a certain group of players.
Right.
Is that, how unusual is that? And are there benefits and are there disadvantages to doing that?
Yeah, I think it goes on maybe a little bit more than people would realize. There are benefits, certainly. You know, I think this is the big thing. You're learning the offense in its totality. You're getting to hear the language in its fullness all the time. You know, a receiver, you know, more times than not just wants to hear his one little part. Oh, I got this route, and let me break the huddle. But when you are learning a new system, you know, you can start to put the rhyme and reasons together of why certain things are called this and why they're called that. You learn the history of the offense. You might want to go, wait, why do we call this route this? And then we do a certain route that's very similar to it, but we call it something completely different. And the coach might explain to you, well, you know, this is where the origin of this play came from. Or, you know, hey, the offensive line has a similar call to the word you're saying we should use. So therefore we went with another word. And you start to understand and really digest the offense in its totality a lot better that way. So I do think you'll have a better understanding all the time instead of you just learning your one little thing you need to learn about. Now, at some point, the receivers are going into their wide receiver room and they're talking about exactly what they have to do, but it sounds like they're having a lot of full offensive meetings where they're teaching everybody a little bit of everything. And usually within those meetings, Mike, the position coaches are sitting close to their players too, to talk little finer details out in the meeting room as they go along. If, you know, let's say Zach Taylor's talking about the offensive line, the wide receiver coach can quietly whisper to the wide receivers, hey, you know, this, and this means that, and don't forget your rules. And it's a good way to put the offense in. Sorry for the long-winded answer.
And I like on one hand the idea of everyone knowing what everyone else is doing, but on the other hand, you know what?
Yeah.
If I'm split left, there's a lot going on 40 yards away from me that is completely irrelevant to my assignment on this play. I think there's a certain value in being laser focused on what you are asked to do, and it's up to the coaches to make sure the 11 players weave together. But I guess from the perspective of when things go haywire, which they often do, if you have an understanding of what the other guys are doing, then maybe you can react more quickly. But my God, to carry around in your head all of that information for every play that gets called, I just think that's unrealistic.
Yeah, well, and listen, they're not sitting there like really dialed into what the offensive line calls are. They're just going, oh, okay, I hear that, and no, now I know to listen to my part at the wide receiver position. But what it does too, Mike, you know, the learning of the formations and things like that, you know, you could be the split out receiver to the left all game long, and all of a sudden, let's just say there's an injury at the wide receiver position, right? The slot receiver got injured. All of a sudden, you got to move into the slot. And, man, there's some different rules for the slot receiver, and the language is a little different. And, you know, when we're in this formation, there's little nuances that you have to know. And I think that's where it's great to meet as a total offense, as you just get to, you know, learn some of the things that you normally wouldn't learn from when the time comes that they might ask you, hey, we need you here. It won't be such a drastic change or so shocking.
Let's not go completely to sleep on the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that's the best situation to be in, where no one expects anything out of you. You can get your guys pissed off because they're being overlooked. You get a little chip on the shoulder. You don't have the expectations that the Browns have. Maybe the Bengals can surprise some people this year. And maybe, and if they do, I guarantee you this, more teams will be implementing their offenses this way if it works for the Bengals. That's how it goes in the NFL, right, Chris?
No, you're right. More teams will go, oh, okay, wow, that worked. And, you know, if we start to continue to hear players talk positively about it and the experience of learning that way, you're right, it will catch on with the NFL. But, Mike, main point, what you said, I love it, and you're right. Man, hey, anybody out there, don't sleep on the Bengals. Look at the Bengals roster. There's still studs all over the place. I mean, that's why the AFC North is just unbelievable. You know, yeah, the Bengals are in the basement, but there's Pro Bowlers and Hall of Famers on this roster, you know, with guys like A.J. Green and Geno Atkins and Carlos Dunlap and Kirkpatrick and William Jackson and Joe Mixon. You start to go through it, you go, wow, okay, this is not like the worst team we've ever seen, so I would not be shocked if they were, you know, pretty damn good this year.
Yeah, but they weren't good last year. I mean, but that's the thing. Look, I said this recently. You could have 32 teams that have Bill Belichick and Tom Brady on the payroll. And you could have the entire, you could make duplicates of all the players on the Patriots and have 32 teams. And there's still going to be teams that are 4-12.
Yeah.
There's just certain things that happen over the course of whether it's scheduling, bad luck, bad calls, untimely mistakes. Stuff happens. And a lot of times it's that stuff that happens a little bit here and a little bit there that makes a team that would be 10-6, 6-10. And that's just the reality. And the Bengals were bad last year, but it doesn't take much to turn it around. That's why so many teams that didn't make the playoffs one year end up in the postseason the next year.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, you refocused human emotions, players, coaches, everybody's focused. There's edge, within the building. In this scenario with the Bengals, it's new coaches, it's new life, it's new energy. It's, let me impress my new coach. Let me impress my new head coach. So everything is on the up and up in that organization right now to where, yeah, they're learning new things. Coaches are evaluating new players. Players are trying to impress the new coaches. And a lot of the times that leads to successful things once the season comes around.
All right. Hey, great stuff, Chris. Monday is in the books. We'll be back on Tuesday with another PFT Live, PFT OT. When's the next Chris Simms Unbuttoned?
Will be tomorrow, Tuesday morning. We will tape it, and it should be out by Tuesday afternoon.
All right, we'll look for it then. I'll do a PFT PM later today, and we'll see everybody bright and early Tuesday morning for another edition of PFT Live. Have a great Monday.
See ya.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.